So it's just been announced that Nuno will be staying with West Ham in the Championship, and overall season ticket prices going down. And the club made a statement saying they need to fix the relationship with the fan base. It's all kicking off this morning. An admittedly very good statement from the club. I think the one after it got relegated rang a bit hollow for most fans. There was a whole rumour of it being AI. I'm sure AI may have been used somewhere. I don't know whether the whole thing would have been written by AI, but that's been given, the club a bit too much credit. But they may have used it for a spell check or something. Haven't we all done that before? Anyway, though, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure if you're new here to like, comment and subscribe as we get into this news that Nuno Espirito Santo will be our manager in the Championship. Now, look. I made a video 2 days ago that I was very angry and reactionary when it came to Nuno, because obviously that hit piece came out in The Athletic, Roshane Thomas, and this is not me suggesting that Roshane was lying in that piece, not at all. But the more you look into it, the more you go, okay, some of it still makes sense, some of it's not actually as bad as it seems when you first read it on paper. The upset players, I think we can probably work out who they are and who they're not. There's some players that have been used under Nuno, some players that have just been fully exiled. Alphonse Areola's wife came out on Instagram and basically blamed Nuno and Graham Potter, to be fair, for Areola's place not in the World Cup squad. Make of that what you will. I do feel bad for Areola because, yes, he is not had a great season, but it feels like for a while now he's been a mainstay of that squad. You're always that third choice goalkeeper. Maybe second. I don't really know French goalkeepers that well, but he's always been in the squad. And now he's not. What I will say, though, is this has probably been his weakest season. And as you can blame the tactics, definitely for that. But I don't think it's that surprising that as soon as, Hermansen comes in again, we start having more clean sheets. Now, look, I know people say, Disastrous came in and Mavropanos improved. Sure. That's by the by. Todibo, look, I'm sure he's just bad anyway. Look, I don't know what it is about Todibo as a character. He just does seem to do these things. And the whole Ward-Prowse thing I still don't agree with. I think it's ridiculous. I think Ward-Prowse could have been a massive asset to us, actually. Obviously not with the overuse reliance that Graham Potter would do, but I reckon off the bench he can really help, especially when we need those set pieces sorted out. And I think he could have done something mega for us, but that's by the by. But now we've got Nuno. And what are the next steps? Well, the next steps for me is to actually get him his backroom staff. This is imperative to me. I think this is what has to go down as one of the first things to do on the list. Is just, who do you want as your backroom staff? Who can we get? Who can we help you? Who can we get to help you improve this team? Because that, to me, is number one. I think there is no doubt in my mind that things improved when Paco Jimenez came in and really gave us a push. Really gave the players a push. And this is no disrespect to the under 21 staff, right? I fully respect them, and you know what? Well done to them for taking that promotion and giving it a go, and it's been a major part of the team. But sometimes, I think, especially nowadays, it's more difficult to break that ceiling, especially with Premier League managers, because they have their traditional backroom staff who they know and they trust more, and I think that's the big issue, right? I think Nuno works well with the team. Nuno's quite a stubborn character, openly and admittedly quite a stubborn character. He likes to stick to his guns. He'll need a backroom staff that challenges him. Paco Jimenez came out and said a lot of the times that he had to tell Nuno that this is wrong. He had to express to Nuno multiple times that we should do things this way. We shouldn't do it the way that you think has to be done. Just because I guess Nuno sees things his way and really needs a big push to be told to go in the other direction. And overall, I don't think that is a bad thing, because I think having a manager that is strong on what they believe in is great. I don't know what happened with the back five at Newcastle. I think we need to, Paco, mate. Who said that was a good idea? Why did you let him think that was a good idea, mate? That wasn't right. But as well, I think it's important to know that we have a little bit of a plan. We're not hitting the reset button again, because as much as it's not been the best season ever, the points tally improved massively. Again, in that article it says, from January we had an average of 1.5, I think, something a game. That's pretty decent in the Premier League, and if we did that all season, we ended 7th, which is, let's be honest, probably the best we could hope to achieve as West Ham fans, especially with the current squad and the current way about it. 7th in the form table in the second part of the season is not bad, but it just shows how we were in the first half of the season. And yes, that's not all down to Graham Potter. A lot of it is down to Nuno Espirito Santo as well. And it gets hard to, say, oh, we didn't really go forward much. Because you have to look at how much the teams at the bottom improved. Like, it's not that we didn't improve, it's that Leeds and Forest and Tottenham improved more than us. And that's not making excuses for Nuno, because there was mistakes, there was points thrown away. We could easily have got ourselves out of this situation. We put ourselves in the situation as a club. But I do think that we had the weakest squad out of all of them. Look at our bench. There's no disrespect to any of the lads that are on there, but our only attacking options were Callum Wilson and Dama Traore, who barely appeared. Then we had La Madrid, who apparently has been impressing in under-21 football. I haven't seen much about him, to be honest with you, but I'm happy that La Madrid might be staying on. Again, I've seen some under-21 goals, and he looked exciting, but that's not a player when you bring him on the Premier League. Someone that you might keep in your under-21s. It's good to have a couple on there. I fully think Mo Kante deserves a spot. Ollie Scholes now is a genuine part of the squad, possibly our starting left back in the Championship, and deserves it. So it's not all bad, but there's no spark there. And I think the fact that Nuno had the uptick he did is super impressive. Now, obviously it's tough to say, oh well, we need to get a plan together of who we're going to buy, because we know we have to sell. We know we have to sell, that's the point. So, Nuno now has to figure out who he can convince to stay. I really hope that part of the talks would be Nuno going, I want to try and keep X, Y and Z. Maybe 3 or 4 players. Obviously, there are players that I'm still sticking to, will stick around. Hermansen, I think, will be here. Walker Peters will be here. Kilman, I think, will be here. Skulls, Potts, Magassa, not Fernandez. There's a good chunk. But there's also a good chunk leaving out the door. Fernandez, Juff, Somerville, gone. Areola at this point, gone. Todibo, gone. Ward-Prowse will be gone. Alvarez will be gone. It's a decent amount. Fulkrug will be gone, but apparently they can be by mutual consent, which is a... How do you mess that one up? It'll be a tough window for him, and I'm kind of happy that it's a manager who knows who works and who doesn't. I think that's good. The fact we're getting a director of football as well, I think, is a really good step, because if we weren't going to do that, and we just let Nuno, work with agent Mendes, so I'm not, entirely against managers using agents, but we need a pathway at this club. Like, the amount of times you look at everyone talk about West Ham, they go, they don't have a director of football, what are they doing? It's exactly that. It's the whole... We're so behind, and I know that Nuno has some really bad experience with Edu at Forest, but let's get a director of football that actually wants to work with Nuno, not push past Nuno. And I do think a director of football should be looking towards the future, but you also need to work within the present, because if you don't do that, of course your manager's going to get upset. If you're already bypassing him midway through the season, it's like if you get your job and they're already getting ready for the new guy, they're already getting him a welcome party, and you're sat there going, but hey, I'm doing a good job here and I haven't been sacked yet. Like, what's going on? So I think we need to get him a director of football that he'll want to work with him and he'll want to work with, because I do think it's a good fit, Nuno West Ham. I do think he's got that fight about him. Yes, we haven't seen it a lot of times this season, but it's been a perilous job. What I need to see from Nuno now next season is confidence. I can't be dealing with, oh, this is a really good performance. Now we need Nuno to be on it. And look, I know that he did the thing in 2018 with Wolves where he had a super team. We might have a similar semblance. I'm not saying we have that good of a team. I mean, that was a cheat code in the Championship. But if we can keep Bowen, if we can keep Souček, we can keep Mavropanos, Tati Castellanos, actually worked well. We wouldn't be doing that bad. Bear in mind as well, we do have some good players in the academy, like Earthy. Marshall will be useful. Callum Wilson, I think, will be a cheat code in the Championship. He couldn't play 90 minutes, but I think that front three of Tati, Pablo and Wilson was already quite effective in the Premier League. Can you imagine how effective it would be in the Championship? I think Nuno's got a lot of decisions to make, and I think he has to make them. And what I will say as well is it's really good that the board have dropped the season ticket pricing. I think if it was under Karen Brady, I don't think that would have happened. I think there's a general consensus going around is that they would have frozen the prizes. And that didn't happen this time. I think it's really important that they mentioned that they have to rebuild the bridges with the fan base, because look, we don't know what's going to happen with who's going to be in charge, how much percent stakeholders someone going to have, and who's going to be our mainstay. But what matters is that none of us are really happy with any of them in terms of just their apathy towards the club. They don't seem to be very ambitious as a collective, and that hurts West Ham fans, because look, I'm under no illusion that we're a top team. We are very much should be in the middle pack of the Premier League, right? As much as I say West Ham massive, but the thing is, when you're middle pack in the Premier League nowadays, that means that you can aim for 6th, because teams trip up over each other. But we should be in that position, ready to take advantage of that. Instead, we're languishing in the Championship because they don't care. In terms of they thought we had a good enough squad to start the season. Can you imagine, right? Also, I'm saying this with a lot of generosity. How much better our squad got in January when we had La Madrid come in, Traore, Wilson, Tati, just disastrous. Those 5 names appeared on the bench, in the squad on the bench a lot. What were we doing before that? Obviously we had Guilherme, but obviously he didn't want to be used. So at that point, it's just, what were we doing? What were we thinking that was good enough to start a Premier League season? I don't know. But now, what's happened has happened. Nuno's in. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments down below. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Take it easy, and bye-bye.